Tuesday's come round again. Okay, we've got a few of us, so I think I'll get going now. Better. Oh, is that? Oh yeah, that's better, is it, Mum? Okay, good. Perfect. Okay, so it's good to be here again with you today. I've actually got a clear afternoon, so I haven't got anybody else in the house, so it's nice and quiet everywhere, which is great. I've been looking forward to do this card with you. It's one of my favourite types of cards to make. It's a really nice, quick and easy one, so if for some reason you're called short and you really need a card quickly, and you don't really want to pull out all your stamps and you can't decide on a theme and what to do, this is a really good go-to style that I think would work for everybody. You just need to pick out some probably their favourite colours or the colours that you think would be appropriate and just go for it. Because it is so bright and modern and quite way out there, I think it's an absolutely great card for teenagers, also for young adults, and say anybody who you're not particularly sure on to what theme you should actually sort of create a card around. It's a one layer card apart from the sentiment here, so it's really quick and easy. You can have a lot of fun with changing the colours up and even changing the images on there. I would say there's a couple of things to remember to make this card work. I would initially say that choose 3 colours that you think go really well together. So here I've used the yellow. This is a slightly greenier colour, and peacock feathers. So these are distress oxides that I've used. So pick 3 complementary colours, and also my second tip for this card is don't be afraid of using black. I've stamped these flowers, which are actually usually quite a bold design because of the amount of colour that you would put down with them, and I've gone with black, but I think that's just what really makes everything pop on this card. It really makes the colours stand out and be really bright against these blacks. So don't be frightened of using black. I think that is probably the key to making this card work, and it really makes it look really bold and really modern as well. Right, to create this, in the background initially, to add the pops of colour, I've used the HEXAGON stencil. Then to add the flowers and the stamps on top of there, I've actually used a couple of images from the Trellis Blooms stamp. So I've used a lot more of the open ones. I didn't want to go too much with a design on the stamps. So I just wanted something really sort of light and airy to sit on top of the bold pops of colour from the stencil. So I went with this stamp here. I think this one would work, as would this one, and perhaps this one here, for this particular style. And then I've taken the bold spotty daisy from the Edge Cuts collection, the Daisy Burst stamp set, and I've used the polka dot flower here, because this stamps as a bold colour. This one would work also, and these smaller ones too. So I shall get on and start creating. Just move those aside, we don't need those now. As I say, this is just a single layer card. Quite a lot of the designs that I do for you on the Facebook Lives do involve single layers. I think it's a really useful design to make. As I say, it's something that comes together really, really quick, and it enables you to do lots of layering, and so with just perhaps a little bit of thought initially as to where you start, you can make some really effective cards. So the pop of colour with this card is coming from the Stencils. Now I love these stencils because as you can see, they have lots of different sizes of the one shape, and to me, I find that so useful. It just gives me sort of a huge amount of flexibility in the designs that I make. Now, as I say, the best thing to do is work in groups of 3 and choose 3 colours that you think complement, which is what I've done here. So I shall bring in, these are the colours that I've used. I've used this colour combination before and I think it works really well. And I think actually this would work for both male and female, because you've taken away like the girly element, the pink element. Not that all girls like pink, I'm sort of stereotyping there, but I think it does mean that makes it suitable to give to anybody. Now we're going to add the pops of colour onto this background here with the stencil. Now I'm just going to work out, okay, I'm using this size shape at the moment, and I'm going to be working, because these will be probably the bolder shapes on the piece. I'm actually going to be working with those and just put them off the page slightly, just so it looks a bit random as to where I've placed these. Right, I'm going to start with a green on this one. So I'm using Distress Oxides mainly for this because I know they give a really solid, intense colour, and for me today that's the effect that I want to have. Now a lot of the time when I do blending with inks, I would say to you, build up the colour slowly so you can get like an airbrushed look and you get a graduated look, and you get a lot of shading within the blending that you're doing. Today I'm going completely against what I usually say, and I'm going to put down as much colour as I possibly can. I want to have that bold coloration going on there. Now I've just put a sticky note on the side there because of the margin that I have between the edge of the shape that I'm colouring and the edge of the stencil. I want to keep that clean. I don't want to have the blender go over that, so I'm just allowing myself just that bit of movement so I can put the sticky note there. Now one thing I will do in this card, which I didn't do on this one, I'm just going to add an element of texture within these bold shapes, and I'm going to do that by bringing in this stencil, which is a bubble wrap stencil, which I know Lisa's had on shows previously, and I think if you check her website, it will be available there. If it's not and you have other stencils, work fine. This is just the one that I picked up and fancied using today. So again, what I'm not doing today is actually fixing the stencil down to the mat to actually keep it in place. If you find that would work easier, by all means put a little bit of tape there, because what I want to do is I want to keep this stencil in place. So I'm still working with this within this hexagon here, but I'm going to overlay this bubble wrap stencil, and I'm just going to take some more ink and I'm just going to blend and apply the ink through the stencil. I'm not going to do the whole amount, all I want to do is just add some texture, and if I take that away now, even with the amount of ink that I'd already placed down, working more ink over the top through the bubble wrap stencil gives me that element of texture in that hexagon there. So I would say that that's done, and I can move that away, and I can move on to the next colour. Because I'll be working with the same shape, same size hexagon there, I'm just going to clean that off because I don't want the transference of the colour. Okay, make sure that's clean, and we should be placing the next hexagon. We'll just change the way it sits a little bit on the page so it doesn't look the same as the one that you've already done. I think I'll go in with blue this time. So this one is actually peacock feathers. So this is say another favourite colour of mine. It's so vibrant. And as you can see, I'm going straight in with the colour. There's no blotting off on the side, which is what I usually do. I want that bold, intense colour going on there. And you can see with the oxides how quick you get that coverage. And I just love the effect that the oxides give and that chalky effect. Now I'm just going to come in with my stencil again. I'm going to use a slightly different area of it so we're not having the same texture. And although I'm going over the same colour with this and blending through the stencil on top of that vibrant colour, the tone on tone will still give us a nice effect, as you can see there. It's a very different effect to what you've got on this card, which I like. I like the solid colour that you have on here, but I just wanted to show you that you can actually play around and create different effects with this. Just give that a quick wipe again. What was the shape that I used? That was the one that I used. So time for the third one, and I should come down this way. And this time I should be using the fossilised amber and blend straight onto the page and get a bold, as bold a colour as you can manage with that blend. And I think because you're putting on such a bold colour, the crispness of that against the white background, I think, is just what works brilliantly. I actually do really like this style. It's something that I do go to time and again, and I've actually created this with sort of different styles of stamps that you may already have in your collection. It's something that you can adapt really well to your stash and to the person that you're giving it to also. So again, I'm just going in through the bubble wrap stencil just to create that tone on tone effect. Let me take that away. So that tone on tone effect, as you can see actually, as the ink dries, that tones down even more, and that gives just a really lovely impression. It's texture, but it's there, it's not in your face. So I don't need the bubble wrap anymore. I'm just going to give this a quick wipe. Now normally I wouldn't be so keen to clean the stencils while I'm working, but we really don't want the transference of that colour. Now next thing is to balance up and fill in some of these white areas with some smaller of the hexagons here. Now I shall use a mixture of the two smaller ones, so this size and this size here. Now my aim at this stage is to try not to put two colours next to each other. It can't always be helped, and again, it's just what's pleasing to your eye really. Say anything with any craft. I mean, I can give you and show you how I do things, but if when you're playing you want to create something different, then that's the beauty of us all creating, and that's why we come up with such different designs between us. This time I'm going to keep these rectangles just a solid colour, so I shan't put any texture in these, just to make them as a point of difference to the rest of the design. So we have the green and the green, so I should put the blue down this side. Again, each time just twist the stencil about so not all of the hexagons, not all of the shapes are sitting in the same position. Again, that just gives a little bit of interest to the card, and we shall just go have that hexagon there, and that means I can put the yellow up here, and I shall use the smaller hexagon for that, I think. Again, you'll notice that I'm actually coming off the page. Yep, should go in with the yellow. That just takes away sort of the look that it's sort of too contrived. There are a time and a place for designs where everything is kept within the page, but I think this design works where it's all slightly quirky and goes backwards and forwards. Now I just want to fill this top corner just with something, and I'm just going to add possibly just a tiny bit of blue. It really doesn't need that much at all. Just into that corner, just a slight shape there, and you can see there I've actually gone over the edge. That one can actually be disguised with what we're going to do next. Okay, so I'll just move the colours out of the way at this stage. Let's have a quick look at the comments. Oh yes, that's a good point, Natasha. You can actually take away some of the ink by going over with a damp cloth too. That would work. I mean, you can actually use these little sections as a whole completely different canvas and do all sorts of techniques within each of these. This is just a canvas that just gives you the opportunity to play. Now what I'm going to do some stamping. This is where I'm going to start introducing the black, and this is where I think that the design actually starts popping and actually starts coming together. The first stamp I'm going to use is this one from the Trellis Bloom set. This is the A4 stamp set, and I'm going to use this open one here. It's an open flower type design, and I think what I should do is use the hexagons as the colour for the flower, so it's the suggestion of flower. I mean, the whole of this sort of type of design is quite abstract, so it just allows you just to have that little bit of fun, just have that little bit of freedom. So by placing this stamp over these larger hexagons, I mean, it's an incredibly abstract flower, I mean, I grant you that, but I think it's that whole suggestion, I think it works really well. The black VersaFine stamps brilliantly over oxides too, so if this is something that you want to try and you're wondering about what black ink to use or even what black ink to buy, I would always say use a VersaFine. It stamps brilliantly. It gives you the confidence in the stamping, it gives you a really nice crisp clean image even over the Distress Oxides, which have a really chalky finish, and they have quite a substantial finish on the page too, unlike sort of other inks that you may use. So again, I'm working in threes. We have the 3 larger hexagons, so therefore I'm going to stamp 3 of these larger flowers. Stamp this one again. Again, I'm turning this stamp as well, so not even these flowers are sitting in the same way on the page, and also these are being stamped off the page also. There we are. You can see now how abstract that is coming out, and even as that sits like that, I think that's lovely. So let me just, bear with me, I'll just clean the oxides from the mat there. Okay, so now it's time to bring in the bolder flowers. So as I said, I'm using the daisy, like the polka dot daisy from the Daisy Burst set. I'm using this one here. This one would work. Actually, I'm using this one here because we have 2 sizes. Actually, let's bring in the 2 sizes this time. Let's do something a little different. And you can see the difference between the two stamps. So let's get a new stamping block. So can you see here the difference between the 2 sizes of flowers there? And I think this is a really nice design feature. The fact that they are both of the same design but just different sizes, I think it just echoes the whole theme of this card. You don't want to have too many conflicting designs on this, I don't think. So the fact that this is quite simple but is repeated is a really nice trait. So when we come to bring in this daisy design, we can have this repeated but in different sizes, I think will work really well. So I'm going to place the larger flower here, and I'm going to aim to get this 3 times on this page. We don't want it to overpower though. So it's the case of sort of stamping once and standing back and looking to see where it might work again. So that works really well, I think. So again, I'm using the black VersaFine. It gives a really nice coverage, and I'm just going to stamp that off the page up here actually. We don't need to have the whole one, I don't think. So we just have the suggestion of one at the top here. And I think I'll link that back up again. And we'll just put one here so we've got the balance. And this actually is going to correspond by sitting inside this hexagon here, which I think is a really nice, sits really nicely. As I say, it's quite a bold choice to use black, but again, I think it works. So we have the suggestion of the 3 daisies there. Now I will possibly add some more of these smaller ones. Again, I shall aim to put 3 in, and I'm going to put one in the centre here. I'm not going to put it right in the centre, that would look too obvious, so I'm going to set it just off to the side so it's overlapping this open flower, and it's also overlapping that blue hexagon there. See that? That works, I think, for the modern feel. I mean, it's not an easy design to do, and when you're aiming to put something randomly, it can, if you go too random and if you think too much about it, it can end up looking really ordered. So it's quite a hard thing to sort of train yourself to do. But I think I've got the balance right on this. It's working out to be quite different to the one I created here, which is nice. So I want to show you different options. So, and I'm going to put the last one here, because if you do give this a try yourself at home, it will undoubtedly turn out very different. And if you do actually give it a try, we'd love to see. We'd love to see what you do. Just pop it on our Facebook group, and we can see what colours you've used, because everybody has a different take on what colours go together, and there might be different combinations that we haven't thought of. You may have different stamps. You may have somebody in mind that you're creating this for, so therefore that would influence the way that you create this card. So it'll be nice to share. Right, just to finish off with the last stamp, I'm using a teeny tiny daisy, also from the Daisy Burst set. This is also a solid stamp, it doesn't have the polka dots because it's too small, but I'm just going to add this in a few places, sort of off centre to the open flower. The temptation would be to put it in the centre, but that would look too regular, and I don't think for this style of card that would work at this stage. So I'm just going to find unusual places to place them, and possibly the last one, I might just put that just off centre in down there. There we are. So that's the stamping that we've done. Now what I have tried to keep in mind is where I would actually put the sentiment when I was stamping, and it seems that there's a natural place where I can place that would be in there, because I'm not actually covering up too much underneath. You've still got the suggestion of the flower underneath there. Now I have this little flag that I've cut from the Fundamentals collection. This is the nested flag set, and again, it's one of those sets that I always reach for. That's the size that I've used. That's the third size from the smallest, and I've just die cut there. If you have any of other Lisa's dies, we have these ones here. We have the nested banners also. These would work equally well, obviously depending on the sentiment that you're going to add on there. I like this shape, and the sentiment I'm going to use is from the Just Saying collection. These are the bold words. I'd actually had one of these die cuts already on my desk, so I looked to see what would fit that, as opposed to choosing the sentiment and then die cutting a piece to fit around it. So with that in mind, the sentiment that I came up with was the lots of love, which I think actually works really well. It's quite an unusual thing to put on the front of a card, and it takes you away from the traditional happy birthday. Now these stamps are in two sizes, so I actually have two stamps on the page here, or two stamps on the block. I have this smaller card, the smaller one, which says lots of, and I have the love here. Now the way that I made this work was lining both of these stamps up initially onto, oh, they're sticking to my fingers. I lined them up on the die cut to first of all check that they fit, because that would be no good if they didn't fit on the die cut, and also we can just line them up so we know that they actually work together. Bear with me, they're sticking to my fingers. Okay, I just need to line in so I can line up that top stamp there. So there we are, we can see that they fit on the die cut onto the piece that we want to stamp them onto. Now all we need to do is just place the stamping block over the top and pick up those stamps as are. So we know and we have the confidence that we can go straight onto our die cut like that. Before I stamp, I will colour this die cut, and I think I'll go with the yellow. I'll go with the fossilised amber. Now a great way of making sure that your tags and your sentiments do actually coordinate is to use a white cardstock and colour them. Colour them with the inks that you're actually using to stamp with on your main piece. You know for sure that you'll have full coordination with the colour there. Now today, actually, I forgot to mention that this cardstock I'm using is a smooth cardstock, so that's what's enabling me to get a really lovely crisp stamped image there. I know quite often on these lives and a lot of techniques I do, I've been using watercolour cardstock, but today I have a nice smooth cardstock. Now bear with me. Now I'm just going to clean this stamp, because what I'm going to do also is just add a little bit of texture to this stamp, and to do that I need to just clean that polka dot daisy, clean the black ink off of there. I find that even using the Versamark ink, I can clean the stamps really well with a microfiber cloth. As you can see, it's a bit mucky, and water. That's all I need, and just with sort of a good firm rub, the VersaFine comes off of there no problem. So I'm going to stamp or ink up the stamp there, and I'm just going to stamp off the page. Again, tone on tone. I do like tone on tone stamping. I think it's so effective, and I shall just stamp a couple of daisies on there. And as that dries, that tone on tone will sort of really blend itself into the background, so it won't look quite as obvious. Now fortunately the Distress Oxides do dry quite quick, so now I can take my sentiment that I've already laid out on my stamping block, and I can take that and line that back up on my die cut there. Now another way to do this also is to use a stamping platform. If you're less confident using a stamping block, you can achieve this with the same effect with a stamping platform. With the VersaFine, I would always say to allow the ink to take, so just allow that stamp to sit just for a few seconds on top of the piece that you're stamping onto. So we have that ready to attach to the front of the card there. Right, I'm just going to glue this in place. You can of course use 3D foam or 3D glue gel. That would work just as well. I'm just going to come in with my micron pen, so I just want to add just a tiny bit of detail, just like I have done on this tag here, and I'm just going to doodle a wavy line all the way around the outside. And I'm not going to go past the words there, I think that just makes that look like it's incorporated really well. Okay, I'll just put that to one side. Now I have the matten layer that I'm going to put this piece onto, and like I said before, to ensure that you get proper coordination of the colour of all the matten layers. I'm not actually going to use that. Sorry, I changed my mind. I actually very rarely use a coloured cardstock to mount my pieces onto. I would always take a piece of white cardstock. I cut it just that little bit bigger, as you do for your mats and layers. Then I take my ink, the coordinating ink, and I just go around and I just colour tint the card. And I say that way it means I'm not constantly looking through all my coloured cards, so I'm not always the best at just quick decision making, but it also means you don't have to keep a stock of every single colour cardstock either. You don't need to colour the whole piece, you just need to tint with your blender here, and you can see how quick that was, especially with the oxides here. You can just colour tint a piece of white card and you know that that will work perfectly when we sit this on top. Nobody would ever know. So that's just a secret between you and I. Okay, so I'm just going to put this back on here. And there we are. You can actually see how quick that can come about. And this actually I think would be very good for batch making. If you were sitting down yourself, you could get yourself prepared, and I'm pretty sure you could actually create a lot of these all in one go, especially if you sort of wasn't demonstrating, you wasn't having to sort of chat somebody through that. I think that's just a really nice, quick and effective card. It's turned out completely different to this one, which again I think is perfect. So if you are batch making, again I think it's you know that they will all come out slightly differently, but just as effective. Okay, so just before we go, I did actually spend the morning creating a few more of these, just so you can see this style in another couple of colours. Now this is made with Lisa's favourite colourways, so we have the picked raspberry, we have the twisted citron and the broken china. Yes, these are all with oxides as well. Now I'm hoping if I just tilt this, what I've actually done with this one is a point of difference. I've created everything in the same way, but when I came to stamping these large open flowers, I've actually heat embossed them with clear embossing powder. So we have like a shiny element on there, and that just lifts it, that just elevates the card a little bit. And we all know with a bit of embossing on there, it makes it look glossy and just makes it look a little bit more expensive, doesn't it? So that's a really nice effect. I've created a slightly different one here, as you can see, in green, so this might be more ideal for a guy. I still think you can give flowers to guys, especially when they're stamped in black, so I wouldn't let that put you off. Again, I've used the hexagons, I've used oxides. I've actually created these circles here by using the circle stencil and drawing through it. I've put the circle stencil away now, but basically let me get a piece of copy paper for you. It's just actually another way, and a really nice way to use your stencils. Let's say these are so versatile. I'm actually loving using these. I shall show you how these circles are created, but I'll use the hexagon. We just take a micron pen and we draw around it. We offset it slightly, and then we draw the second time, and then we offset that again slightly in a different direction. Let's put that up that way, and then we draw around again. So you can see there that we have a really modern outline of a hexagon. That is all that I done with the different sizes of the circles on the stencil there. And mixing up the shapes, I've mixed up the circles with the hexagons. So again, I think that makes that really a versatile card to make for the guys, and I've used a slightly different sentiment there. Again, I've mixed two styles of text as well, which I think is really effective. And lastly, I've created this one with probably more of a girly design with the pinks and the purples. Again, created in the same way, but instead of using the bubble wrap stencil through the circular apertures, I've used one of the mandala stencils that Lisa's brought out before. So that gives a completely different look again. But again, it's basically the same technique to make them, stenciling underneath with a bold colour and having the confidence to stamp in bold with black on the top. So there we are. We have lots of different versions of the same design, and they all turn out quite differently. I'll put them all there. So what I will do, I'll put all these different designs, I'll photograph them, and then I'll put them into the Facebook group, and I'll also get the video edited and sorted, and I'll put this on the YouTube channel as well, Crafting with Lisa Horton. So if you did want to have a rerun or a rewatch and join in and craft and try this design for yourself, then it's sitting there with all our other design team videos for you. Okay, well, I hope you've enjoyed that today. I shall leave that with you there. I hope you're all looking forward to the shows on Thursday. I know that Lisa's first show is at 9 o'clock on Create and Craft on Thursday the 3rd of September. There's some amazing MDF projects coming up, and the design team have had a fabulous time creating, and I hope that Lisa is able to fit all of these samples on set, because they are just amazing. They're brilliant. So if you're a fan of MDF, then definitely tune in to Lisa's first show at 9 o'clock on Thursday. I have a feeling it'll be really quite busy. So thanks for joining me today, and I hope to see you again next Tuesday. Thank you then. Bye.